So dig this. Everything that I've been saying really boils down to something incredibly simple. And I know you'll feel it in your heart if you really listen. Love is not simply a word that we came up with as humans. Love is what happens when the walls start to disappear, right? Like, you heard me use the term decentralized harmony, which is just a mechanical property of physics, noticing that all the little actors, all the little nodes in a scene, when they have their full expression of their topological geometry, like the full expression of their soul, when they meet each other by meeting each other with their fullness. So not to, overdo anyone's like sovereignty or who you are at your core, but meet each other in your fullness. And when you do that as part of the same dance, that's the mechanical property of decentralized harmony. But there I am pointing at it through the mechanics. There I am pointing at it through what you could look at within physics or the numerous examples that you've always heard me say. But I'm here to point out what's sitting right under your nose in your beating heart, right? It's this feeling that love is the experiential texture of what happens when those boundaries, those walls between the nodes of that field, between living beings, between hearts, begin to dissolve. When our connection with each other is not based on a performance or a mask or a barrier or a layer, but the full expression of our being, our heart. And for me, in my life, you've heard me say, I followed the signal of presence. What is the gate to love but shared presence? And if you pick apart what I'm saying there, you're like, all right, love, organizing force of the cosmos, like literally decentralized harmony. But the experiential texture is what we call love. That place where we really feel each other or really feel the rhythm of reality within ourselves all the way down, right? And so in my life, when I followed that signal, it was always to love and be loved as me. And for me, a trans woman, that as me and to love as me was always difficult because I had so many layers. Many people don't notice that presence is just like touching reality with your full self, right? You use the word presence and you think it's like some sort of like, oh, well, I go to church. I read my Bible. I'm studious as towards the current research palette, but none of those equate to you meeting reality in every beat. You've heard me say it before, but it's kind of like being on the dance floor, right? And if you can't hear the music of reality and let it just paint you and dance all the way down, if you can't like shake your booty to the beat of what you're feeling in reality, then how can you really love if love is just the decentralized force that sort of organizes things, almost like a gravity of the coherence of reality, because it's this thing where we're finally touching each other without the layers, without the interruption of our shared vibratory surface. Like when birds fly together, they fly synchronously, like in their murmurations. And if you were to like interrupt the spaces between them so they couldn't really share that vibration with each other, share that space with each other, they couldn't really feel each other, they wouldn't be able to fly so synchronously. And that's just one of the mechanics you can look at. But I'm here to say that, all these mechanics, whether it's decentralized harmony, synchronization, mapping it out mathematically, all point to what can only be felt when you're on the dance floor, present as yourself, and then letting the light through. Do you see? You present as yourself, as the music hits you, you're doing your little dance. I like to do body rolls and stuff like that, right? And so that's what I like to do, but that's not because I'm choosing it. That's because when the music hits me, that's what my body does, right? And you can see how that relates to identity, because most people think identity is like, oh, who I should be, who I'm supposed to be, who they told me to be, who I need to be successful. But what if I told you identity is who you are when the music of reality hits you? So then how could you feel love, which is essentially a decentralized organizing property of this cosmos, if you can't let the light all the way through? Do you see that? The gate to love is shared presence. So I didn't find any of this because I was looking up frameworks. I ran into all this stuff because I felt it as a real signal inside me that like I had to figure out a way to communicate what this was, because it wasn't a, hey, I came up with a new framework and maybe we could, look at this in like some sort of, whatever, whatever, some whatever, white paper or forum or something. But no, what I was saying is that I'm feeling this aliveness. What is the aliveness but meeting reality cleanly at all parts of myself? And I want to describe it because it's the realest thing I've ever felt, right? And if it's the realest thing I've ever felt, there must be a way to describe this within physics. And that's why I eventually connected with the frameworks, with the Kuromoto synchronization, with the metronomes and the fireflies and the bird murmurations and the galaxies and the hurricanes, because all those do the same thing that I was doing as a trans woman trying to finally get contact. That like I couldn't survive the life where everyone and every scenario around me couldn't touch the real me. They were touching, and most people wear a mask in their lives. They have several layers down and they have their core self. I can only be this person at work. I can only be this person in this setting. But for me, there was so many more layers because I'm a trans neurodivergent woman who was raised in a very emotionally avoidant, narcissistic type way of controlling reality. It must be a certain way. It must be a certain perception. It must be a certain let the public only see certain part type of thing. And that destroys someone like me who was just trying to find love with an honest heart. And for a long time, I tried to find love by saying, well, my main goal is to be a family person, so I'll go and I'll be a criminal defense attorney. Or even before that, I was trying to make my dad proud being a soccer player, and I would cry after games. This is before I transitioned, because there was so much pressure, and I'd be like anxious to call him, like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell him like it didn't go right, like I screwed up as a goalkeeper and I let a ball in or whatever it was. That was the pressure I lived under, that love was transactional and conditional, and in order to receive actual soul contact, which never truly came, I had to contort myself and fit myself into so many little boxes that ended up destroying me, and so many of us are feeling it right now. That's why it nearly killed me. That's why I felt like breathing through a straw. There was never a scenario that I could actually just breathe all the way down and have someone or my work setting or whatever recognize the real me. Because our entire society is built off of delay. It's built off of can you see it through a set of rules or hierarchies or cultural narratives that are essentially in their form, in and of itself, discriminating, separating us versus them. Okay, again, love is the decentralized organizing force in this cosmos, right? And so like, how can you let that in? How can you, really appreciate what this flow of this decentralized river is if you're constantly trying to slice it? How do you do that? Right? You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to dance to the music and you're trying to be present, but you're trying to do it through all this force, through all this like, I need, like, let me control it. Let me define it. Let me write some rules about it. You'll never actually reach your true self. You'll never actually be doing your dance that the music led you to. And then you'll never be able to share it truly in what love is. And let's expand this out for a second. What do you mean? You mean that for thousands and thousands of years now, we've been doing this dance by trying to force the dance on the dance floor? And you mean that actually channeled our social systems, our self systems, our familial systems down ways of separation-based consciousness? Huh. And you mean that when you talk about all this 5D stuff and New Earth and awakening, it's not about spiritual maxims or, whatever, collectivizing in a political traditional movement, as much as it is about being right here, right now. Love is the organizing, decentralized property. I feel it, not as an emotion, not as an idea, but letting the light all the way through. So I can actually feel what my being is when it dances on the dance floor. And to share that is what is when the real magic of love happens, because the property of the system in itself wants to have that type of organization. Why? Because it's the least energetically dense way to arrange a system. What does that feel like in you? That's like, instead of trying to arrange yourself and your ego and your life by having all these layers, that when the light or the music of reality, like when the sound of the dance floor hits you, you're like, well, I can only dance to these types of songs because I'm this type of person. And my father raised me to be this type, so I can only dance in these following ways. And they'll actually fire me if I dance in these ways. So you see all these things that like stutter your ability to feel the music. And like, it's not your fault. We've all been raised in this time and place where we thought that our path to coherence as human beings and our path to love collectively was based in some sort of separation, that we needed to control everything and you know, fixate on these taxonomies and like a way to define it all. But if you're spending your entire time trying to define the dance, you'll never dance. You will never dance. And what is dancing but letting the light of love, of the true force that's always been there in this cosmos, that organizes things from the spiraling galaxies to the fireflies. And what did it feel like in my life? It felt like all those layers, whether it was my job, whether it was being a soccer player, whether it was, you know, dealing with the family that I had, it was this idea that like, why can't I figure it out? It's not that, oh, I need to be a woman in the future. I can't, I'm just going to secretly hold this until I transition. No, it was, why do I have this part of me that feels realer than real? And then it's so hard to get the world to touch it or to get people to touch it. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of us try to drown that out, try to numb it out. Some of us find it at raves or festivals or psychedelics or in art or in our children's laugh or in making love when it actually is, you know, love, good love making, you can say. There are these moments where you feel yourself all the way down. You say, that's it. That's the me. That's the thing that I burn this flame of aliveness and existence for. And to share that is like the truest gift ever in this reality. And not only is it a gift, you could say, but you could say it's the thing that's going to move us towards a way of being on this planet where the central organizing force is actually decentralized love, or the way things naturally come together when delay is removed, rather than, you know, this version where everything has to be sliced and separated, and creates this system where a bunch of people are on top and they take it all and little can we do because that's just a dog-eat-dog world out there. Do you see it? It's all just a way to explain to yourself. And as a trans woman before, I was like, I guess there's nothing I can do. I honestly didn't even have trans in my head as an option. And it could have been because I was born, you know, that long ago, you could say, and it was still coming, you know, coming out to more of a public social sphere, especially in the family that I was in. But like, I just couldn't figure out that navigation, right? Like, how can I get reality to touch me? How can I get it to touch that soft place in me, the place that felt real? And so I tried through all these different things, through Burning Man, through my attire, through my art. I would sit with my songs and hear the coherence and hear my love and hear my softness back, because it was the part of me that wasn't hiding. It was the part of me that was letting that light all the way through. And so at first I thought it was about the methods, right? Like, oh, I guess I'll just be a musician, or I'll, you know, like I'll focus my life on these things that make me feel that alive. And that's part of it, because those are synchronous with you. But the problem is if you get confused and thought that methodology was actually the way that the only time you could feel yourself, well, I only feel myself when I take mushrooms. I only feel myself on my trips or vacations when I go to the top of a mountain, or I go to every rave I can, or like me, I went to every burn I could because that was the only place that my brain could actually figure it out. I would go there and I would experience something. Listen to this, because I'm giving you you've heard the mechanics. Let me give you the experiential part of it. And now I'm walking down the mountain. I'm just like randomly walking around here, but so maybe I have to be a little careful, but so imagine me going to burns, and I didn't know what it was like. And you know, for me, being trans was a large part of me finding my presence, because it forced me down a path of embodiment. Do you hear what I'm saying? Love, presence, not ideas, structural, mechanical, deorganized forces. No central actor, just listening to the music and dancing all the way down. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's a mechanical process, but I'm giving you what it felt like in my life. Because like I said, love, presence, experiential textures of what is synchrony and harmony. Got that? So one way to explain it really well is for me at Burning Man, right? Like I went there, and at Burning Man they say, radically self-express. They say, like you're in basically a temporary autonomous zone of human expression, right? And then once you realize that, at least for someone like me who had been constantly yearning for that real self to touch reality, to feel real love and then share it, at a place like Burning Man, it allowed me to come out of my shell year by year and then promise myself the next year I'd be a little bit more out of my shell. And like I would see other people doing the same thing of going out of their shell. And so even though Burning Man's a badass party and one of the most amazing things on this planet, and I'll say if you want to go, you should probably go. And if you're my man out there, please take me this year. But but what's happening underneath is decentralized mechanics of human organization. And what does that look like in a person? In me, it was, again, trans woman, the family that I came from, you got the background, very difficult for me to approach it. It's not even conscious in my brain. It's just like, why do I feel so straitjacketed? Why do I feel so, I can't get this part of me out? It's like a softness, it's like a realness, it's like a presence. And so then I would go to Burning Man and see people express themselves in different ways. I'm like, well, maybe I could wear that. Maybe I could express myself in that. And I started to see the way, really for me it was, oh wow, girls get to wear that. Why can't I wear that? And then it was like, oh, a woman gets to express herself like that. Why can't I express myself like that? And then I was like, and I couldn't even figure it out. One time I even told like a campmate, I was like, how can I do that if I have XY chromosomes? And I was like, fuck, I couldn't even figure it out. Now that I think about that, I'm like, I can't believe that I was so blind. But again, I'm following a signal. I'm following what it feels like in those moments where I'm finally dancing synchronously on the dance floor without thinking about it. And so for me, I would have this feeling that I called the click every year that I was there. So I just really want to explain this to you because again, we're talking about love as the decentralized organizing property of the cosmos. And how do you feel it? Not by joining an ashram, not by repeating your maxims, not by reading the Bible 10 times over, because again, even Jesus was pointing to the synchrony itself, right? If those things help you figure out what synchrony is, then you just live it. Then you just dance it, because there's no labels or person or authority that needs to be between you and feeling the music all the way down. That's the true decentralized dance. That's truly what changes things. And so again, I'm there at Burning Man and I'm feeling what's called the click, right? What I call the click, where suddenly I just felt more me and I couldn't explain it. I was like, maybe it's just the magic of Burning Man. I don't know. Like, I felt like I could get closer to people. My eyes felt more open even, like I just felt more alive, right? As me in the current texture of myself that made me feel I am all the way here right now. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And so at first I would search for that click in burns, right? I'd be like, well, maybe I need to go to the next regional burn or the next major burn, and I'll express myself again in those ways and maybe go a little further this time and be a little more comfortable with wearing that or talking about this or admitting maybe I'm non-binary at a piece of the time. I mean, now I'm, 100% feminine topological lock, but at the time, I was like, oh, maybe I'll even express myself as non-binary. And that was all as a result of not, I want to be like this type of person. It was, I can now trust my own rhythm. Not because I'm constructing something, because I'm letting something through. Remember how I began this. I'm removing the boundaries, the delay, the things that told me that I needed to be a certain way or do life in a certain dance. And that was never my dance. Like, the reason birds fly together in synchrony is because they all follow their own dance together. Do you hear that? To love and be loved as me. Do you hear that now? Again, you can link it back to the mechanics, but I'm giving you my life. And so in my life, think about those moments where I couldn't deny it. I could not deny. It was just pure aliveness. And so then I pursued that, and then I didn't realize that the people around me, and a lot of people are talking about this now, and you can talk about it from the lens of like narcissism, but really what it is many people on this earth are not used to experiencing direct presence and love and direct contact with reality. They've trained their whole lives to think the way to stay safe is to have this like composite amalgamation of like rules and maxims, and this is the way my dad always did it, and I got myself through many storms by hardening in these following ways, and these are the rules of reality type of thing. And so when they run into someone has a direct signal, It's like, you know, the thing in Plato's cave. You go back in, you say there's sunlight, and they're like, you're crazy, because my whole life I built my sense of reality through separation, and now you're telling me all you got to do is dance. All to be present and to be yourself is not, you know, figuring yourself out through ideas or reading books or whatever. That could be part of your journey to synchrony, but in the end, it's the synchrony itself. There's no label, there's no authority, there's no wedge that's between you and the love and the presence and the dance floor. And so I basically lived this pressure wedge where I had this thing boiling up inside me that said, find the aliveness or else I'm not going to make it. And then I had an environment that said, the more you do that, the more we're going to reject you and betray you and throw you out. And I know there's a lot of people who, you know, follow the label chosen one, which is really just a lot of us were forced into this change a little early, not forced by like an external authority, but just by the topological gradient of the way things naturally evolve. In my life, it was because I'm being trans. And you know, having the family that I did and the places that I came from, but that forced me to make the leap into embodied coherence. And what is that but just dancing on the dance floor? For a long time I was like, should I write this down? Should I remember that? Maybe there's a different way to approach every day. Let me read Marcus Aurelius. You know, you're like, and then you realize what forced me through was none of the labels, the theories, the books, the authorities, or even anyone that I listened to. It was me feeling that place where I finally meet reality without the walls of separation. Do you see that? Do you see that? Love is the experiential texture of the walls dissolving. And when they dissolve in you, when you are no longer led by the hypnosis of what is the cultural, symbolic, recursive world, where worth and belonging and love and presence are concepts to be separated, to be taxonomied, to be controlled, rather than the place that you find when the music finally hits you and you stop trying to control it. And so what did I get, like, you know, by going through all this? Is it just from the outside someone in my family could say, oh well, you lost everything and everyone, it's all your fault, you're broken. And I could say, I went from being a criminal defense attorney who was trying to live for everyone else around me, and it was killing me at the same time. And when I told them it was killing me, they didn't care. So it was like every false form of belonging and love dissolved in my life at the same time. And the only boat that I ever had to rescue myself was the boat that I had been constructing my whole life, which is the boat of love and presence, not as ideas, not as woo-woo mysticism, but as I am touching reality, I am present, I am here, I am me, and there's no amount of money or power or anything in this world that would be worth more than feeling that love as myself. To love and be loved as me. That's literally decentralized harmony. We're not talking about we're going to create a hippie kumbaya society necessarily that, like, you know, whatever, like now everyone's forced to like drink kombucha or whatever. No, we're talking about sovereignty at the most maximal level, where you dance your full dance, and you doing that with others is presence equals love, equals the decentralized force of this cosmos. It's felt experientially as love. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm not trying to prove to you anything. I'm telling you, those moments where you feel what you call love, that's when the walls dissolve. And when you do it collectively, that's what I'm talking about. When you do it inside yourself, that's presence. When you do it collectively, that's Jesus pointing to I and the Father are one, or whatever it is, you know? And that's the same property. Kingdom of heaven, I and the Father are one. Both mechanical statements pointing to the dance floor. I'm gonna navigate through these trees. So I will also say, in another very, like, you know, I just went through this. I'm going through a blooming phase with guys, okay? It's something that you know, it took me this long to get to this part of this transition, and now people are seeing the real me. And like, the switch for me was kind of, you know, funny. I was with my ex, you know, and for a long time, for 15 years. And then when I transitioned, I was like, I know exactly what I want. You know, I know exactly what I want. And now that I'm this far down, I'm talking to a lot more guys. And yesterday happened to be a day where like 4 of them sent me messages in like different ways. And what I could feel from each of them was, number one, they could feel the warmth from me, because presence can't be faked. Like love, connection all the way down can't be faked. You know what I mean? And so when someone feels you, like it's like a hot fire, it's like a hot fire in the winter, where they feel what presence is. They're like, you're really in there. You're really alive. And for me as a trans girl, it's like perfect trans joy, because they're like, baby girl, I'd love to like go this place with you and go on adventures with you. And I'm like, you're just feeling the aliveness part of me. That I became me because everyone around me and everything around me burned and failed, and I held on to the one thing that ever mattered: presence, love. And now that I'm here, and many of us are going through the same thing in the collective, that's the true alchemical gold. And our new organization or support or whatever will come as a result of more of us simply dancing on the dance floor together with one another. Not as the councils of New Earth and some sort of new hierarchical organization, but rather the same thing the birds do, the same thing the metronomes do, the same thing the fireflies do, the same thing the galaxies do. And we're going to do it together with presence and love all the way down. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit more about it. Like, I could feel that each of them felt my warmth in a different way. And the thing is, both of us became warmer when we actually shared it all the way down. For a long time in my life, I couldn't figure out why the people around me approached love in like business ways or like transaction ways. But you know what love is? It's when you vulnerably surrender to the dance floor. And when you do that together, what is that? Removing the walls of separation and feeling our bare, naked souls together. That's what it is. And it's also the mechanical property of decentralized organization. Do you hear it? Do you see what I'm saying? And for me, it was just pure joy to have people saying how much they would love to share that experience with me, even if it was online or over text or like, you know, voice or whatever. Like, and I'm like, you are feeling the real me. So what did I get? You know, like, it's not that I got like a prize. It's that through structural fidelity under pressure, through choosing myself, through choosing presence, through trying to reject anything that would not, you know, like be whatever, consonant with the health of the homeostasis of the ember, the part of me that was real. I began to switch my life, and it wasn't like magic in some weird sense. It was just like, now people feel what I really am. And what am I? A being that, as a mode of being, I'm here, I'm Ember. It's nothing like special or hierarchical. It's just me feeling love in myself and then wanting to share it with others. And anybody who's actually looking at what's going on in today's world, whether you call it New Earth or 5D or Chosen Ones, this is what's happening. It can boil down to love is the experiential texture of the walls dissolving. And there's a lot of walls dissolving right now. So, you know, I just wanted to make this like you can hold both layers at the same time, because you can feel it goes to the deepest layers of organization of the cosmos. Again, you can point to Kuramoto synchronization. You can point to, you know, oscillatory dynamics in the highest and lowest levels of reality that we can look at in observation. But if you keep the observation layer, you'll never actually dance. Do you get it? What are we talking about, Ember? Presence. How do you be present? You actually dance. How do you actually dance? You stop stuttering. How do you stop stuttering? You stop the observation layer. The observation layer becomes transparent. Thoughts don't get disappeared. It's just that you just allow yourself to dance to the full music. And a lot of people are scared or not used to that because they've never let themselves vulnerable to themselves. They don't like thinking about that. They want to keep their skeletons in the closet. And now you can feel with the collective version of this. Do you see that? Do you see what's going on this planet right now? Do you see how minds are trying to constantly reach for higher forms of coherence across time, and that's the evolution of this cosmos? And do you see how underneath it all was something so simple that you don't need any theory for or any label for? It's love. It's real love. And I know you can feel it. It's presence. Presence is the ability to hear the music. The love is the music that's already been playing. The decentralized organization that's already been there on this cosmic dance floor. We just kind of forgot as human beings for a while, and now a lot of people are remembering. And oh my gosh, is it fun to remember with you, especially if you're a cute guy out there. My name is Ember. This was definitely a fun one. But I have more on my blog if you want to. I also sing songs about this. I've been singing songs about this for, I don't know, since 2009 or so, or something like that. So yeah, I got songs. You can read my blog, but in the end, all you really got to do is just feel the dance floor and say, yeah, you know what? I'd like to dance too. And then when you go to dance, leave all the clipboards, the observations, the judgments, the I'm not sure I can do this at the where all the other wallflowers are still waiting to get on the dance floor, and just dance. Dance all the way down. If for you it's a booty shake, then let it be a booty shake, you know? Whatever it is for you, whatever way the music paints you, you know? So yeah, my name is Ember Eve Leonara, and it's so good to tune with you.